Welcome to the High Level Wife Podcast. This is a space for Christian wives who love God, want their marriage healed, and are done performing, fixing, striving, or trying to control their way to change. Here we're going to talk about marriage God's way through right order, surrender, heart posture, and spirit-led transformation. This is not self-help, it's discipleship. My name is Chelsey Holm, and my role is to help you move from awareness into obedience so real healing, wholeness, and restoration can take root. Let's begin.
Hey, we're back on the High Level Wife Podcast. I'm Chelsey, and we do marriage God's way here. And today I want to say something that's going to hit a little nerve. I don't know of any of my episodes that don't hit a little nerve, but if you let it land, it's going to change your entire home. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that being a good mom means your kids come first. Always. Their needs, their schedules, their emotions, their world, and your marriage gets what is left over. Okay, which usually means nothing because you're overtouched, touched out, exhausted, living on fumes and peanut butter and jelly crust, right? And in the beginning, right, there is that struggle of your kids can't do anything for themselves. Like they are 100% reliant on your ability to take care of them. And so schedules are different if existing at all. And we have to, as they grow, implement schedules and supports and all of those things of asking for help. And other cultures do it much better than we do here in the US. But none of that is an excuse for us to continue in this vein, in this lie that your kids come first always. And it's interesting because for so many years, I used to tick people off when I would say that, yeah, I served my husband before I served my kids. And they just could not believe that. That's because they're believing the lie that your kids have to come first always. But I said, my husband is the king of our home, given the authority and position under God, right? And we all submit to the Lord. But in the early years of marriage, in the early years of kids, my husband got whatever was left over, and it wasn't very much, right? And that's probably been the case for you too. But then if that is the vein that we start in and we don't ever learn a better way, when we continue into the elementary years and the high school years and college years and even young adult years, what happens is we just continue down this path of destruction. And so I want you to sit with this question for a second. When was the last time your husband got the best of you, not the leftovers? Okay, not the tired version, not the touched out version, not the mentally checked out version after a long day, but the version of you that is present, engaged, connected, fully relaxed. Right? That laughter, that emotionally stable and soft, vulnerable, ready to receive woman. Because here's the truth, most people won't say it out loud that putting your kids first feels loving, but it slowly starves your marriage. Why? Because it's out of order. Go back to episode 1 of this mini series about the right order. Okay, this is subtle. It doesn't happen overnight, but it looks like we're just in a busy season. The kids need me more right now. We'll get back to us later. But later turns into distance, disconnection, and roommate energy, right? You become masters at the schedule. Maybe you can hear the thunder rumbling in the background. I love it. God's power on display. So back to this episode. Later turns into roommate status that ends in divorce, where you look at each other one day when the kids are all gone and you vacuum and the lines stay on the floor and you realize, I don't know this person. This person doesn't know me, and we don't have anything in common. There's so much distance between us. It's palpable. The disconnect is so far. And we feel like roommates. What more is there, right? So this is where we have to come back to truth. Genesis 2:24 says, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. It doesn't say, and then builds his life around the kids. The first covenant relationship God established was marriage. He established this institution. right? I know our upside down culture loves to say down with marriage. And that's an antiquated, I think that's the word, antiquated institution, right? That it's just based on culture, but it's not. God designed marriage. It was the first covenant relationship that he established. So we need to slow it down, right? Your kids came from your marriage. Your marriage did not come from your kids. So when the order flips, everything downstream gets affected because now your kids are at the center, your marriage is on the outside, and your home starts to feel off, right? And let me just tell you, for your kids, this creates little narcissists that think that the world revolves around them. They don't know how to handle conflict. They don't know how to navigate challenging situations. They don't know how to fail. They don't know how to be real and vulnerable in community and connection, right? They don't know how to be corrected or disciplined. So, of course, it starts to feel off. Okay. And I know it's not intentional. You're not trying to neglect your marriage. You're not like, oh, the kids are more important. Honey, you're on the back burner. Like we don't usually say that, but it's felt, right? You're trying to be a good mom, but somewhere along the way you started sacrificing your marriage to prove it. And here's where what most women don't realize is that your kids don't need to be first. They need to feel loved. They need to see a strong, connected, aligned marriage. And this is what creates security, stability, and safety. So think about this, that we know based on research and numerous studies that the children who have clear boundaries established and communicated to them and enforced to them are actually much safer and more stable than kids who have no boundaries at all. And they don't know how much of a risk they can take, right? They don't have something stable and safe to fall back on. And so when your marriage is strong, your home is covered. When your marriage is weak, everything else starts to feel it. And this has been a huge travesty in our culture is and this is the enemy. Like destroy marriage, right? Destroy the first institution, the first covenant relationship established by God, right? And everything else starts to crumble and everything else starts to fall apart. So I want you to ask yourself, have I made my kids the center of my home and pushed my marriage to the edges? Right? An easy test of this is to look at how you spend your money, look at how you spend your time, look at how you spend your energy. Okay, those three areas are going to be telling of what is actually at the center of your home and your heart and your life. All right. So this shows up in never having time for your husband, conversations always revolving around the kids, no intentional connection, and no space for just the two of you. Right now, this doesn't mean we're just going to be like, kids, go away, and we're going to ignore you completely and then move into the ridiculousness of children are seen and not heard. That's ridiculous. That is a lie perpetrated by the enemy to attack our children, to not love them, right? To not instill into them truth, to not teach them how to follow and walk with the Lord. Okay. And this is where we see the shift because putting your marriage first doesn't mean, as I just said, neglecting your kids. And I've actually had wives ask me that. Like, my husband and I are doing all this focus on each other and rebuilding our marriage. And so I feel like we're neglecting our kids. Okay. This is a temporary thing. So if you are in the beginning throes of writing the order, it's going to feel a little bit chaotic is not the right word. It's going to feel very abrupt, right? And Zach has said that in the military they have this storming, conforming, and norming. I think that's what it is when a new leader comes in. I've shared about this before that at first, they're coming in, they're bringing the new order in, the new rules, the new commands, and everyone's storming around like this isn't how it used to be, and they're like, well, this is how it is now, right? And so anytime that we change the order and we write the order from a wrong order, we're going to be just bombarded by lies from the enemy, lies from ourselves, and we cannot come into agreement with those because this means protecting a foundation that holds them, your children. Okay. This is not just about you. A high level wife understands this, that I don't build my life around my kids. I build a strong marriage that my kids get to thrive inside of. So, what would it look like to look? Man, I'm having a problem speaking today. What would it look like to prioritize time with your husband again? To be intentional about connection, to shift your energy back to your marriage, not perfectly, but intentionally. Let me give you one practical way. Actually, let me give you a few practical ways, because when my husband and I were really struggling to practically walk out this right order, there were a few practical ways that helped us to create the space and the environment so that we could do this very practically, as I said, right? And so it was a daily walk. We would go on a daily walk together, and our kids could go with us, but they needed to walk far ahead of us, and we would walk behind them. And this was our time to connect and talk. Another thing was prayer daily, right? Even if it was just a quick prayer before my husband left for work together, um, or it was a prayer at night before we went to bed, right? So it's not adding more to the schedule or adding more time. Like, it's simply using what we already have that we're misusing most of the time. Intentional connection can look like every day sitting together and having actual conversation. There are so many ways to do this. Inside High Level Wife, we have a daily couples devotional that can help you to intentionally talk about things and to have good, deep conversation, right? It's a big part of High Level Wife. It's about what we restore. It's about right order, not in theory, but in real life. Okay? Because when the order is right, the home feels different. So let this land. What you prioritize determines what you preserve. And further than that, it's what you pass down to future generations. So don't be surprised if your marriage is getting your leftovers when it comes to feel empty, right? Empty nesters gets a whole new meaning when you look at it as we haven't poured into this marriage all these years. So it really does feel like an emptiness. Because newsflash, moms, your kids are not yours. They are given to you on loan by the Lord to raise up in the way that they should go so that when they are old, they will not depart on it. Okay? So they were never intended to stay with you forever. They are arrows in your quiver to be shot out into the world. Hopefully, by being disciplined and learning to obey you, they learn to obey the Lord out of reverence and a right view of his holiness. That then allows us to respond because they've seen you practicing this daily in your own life and in your marriage. Okay. In the next episode, we're going to bring this series home and we're going to talk about what it actually looks like to walk this out daily, because this isn't about perfection. It's about returning to alignment again and again daily. I'll see you in the next episode.
If this episode stirred something in you, but High Level Wife feels like too big of a step right now, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't have to jump ahead to honor what God is doing. I created a short guided experience called From Awareness to Surrender for women who aren't ready for ongoing support but know they can't stay where they are. It includes 3 short teachings, a guided exercise, and a prayer I recorded over you. It's going to help you move from awareness into real response. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you're not ready even for that, don't rush past this moment. Sit with God and ask him what obedience looks like next.